So something I've noticed, and it's driving me crazy, is just throughout my years of being into politics and with the most recent craziness of Trump 1 and 2, I've noticed a big shift in how people approach debates. And I saw it really in some of the stories I talked about today and in a debate recently posted by Jubilee, where Adam Mockler, a leftist debate person, is talking to a few people, and a few people done this, but the main people is this woman and this guy that really it just stood out to me, where this dude and the woman I showed earlier are bringing up points about people, and random Twitter people or random people or left leaning people, whatever it may be, they bring up people and they say, look at this crazy person. You know, they're making fun of Charlie Kirk, I think, in the instance of that woman. And this guy, he's talking about, I forgot exactly. I don't want to get copyrighted by Jubilee, but he says that like the point that Adam Mockler is bringing up is, did you see Trump? Oh yeah, Trump. Did he ask his DOJ to do this, that, X, Y, and Z? Did he falsify the elector slate? Did he call for violence here and there? Right? Like there's concrete proof and arguments that can be made about the president of the United States, the head of our state, saying to do X, Y, and Z, this illegal thing or this borderline immoral thing or just straight up both, right? And you have people like, well, what about this guy, random Twitter user number 123? Like, that's where I think we're splitting off, and we're never going to fix anything if these people don't address that there's a difference between the president saying something versus some random person. Because in this same debate, both of these people, the woman and this guy, are asked like, hey, is there instances where a Republican said X, Y, and Z, and a Democrat said X, Y, and Z, and we can point out the Republican who said it, or the MAGA person who has political power but not a Dem. Like I think he like directly asked, like, give me a Democrat politician who's did the same thing, and you can't find that. And I noticed that with our recent politics is they do this shit a lot. They say this shit where it's like, well, did you know that Kamala stood with Black Lives Matter when they were protesting? And you look into it more and it's like, well, she agreed with the principle of it. Like, yeah, I think Black Lives Matter, but the violence that came with the rioting, she disavowed it. And they said, well, she tweeted a link to a bail fund for like a few people. And it's like, okay, that's not the greatest PR look, but like, is that comparable to pardoning January 6th rioters who definitely did the crime, who were seen being violent, and pardoning them because they fall under your politics? Like, I don't think Kamala ever even got like, I don't, how is that comparable? And we see it when Trump asks for violence and says all these crazy things, calls his opponents communist, or says that the election is stolen. Those are violent. Like those justify violence, right? Those things that he's saying. Meanwhile, you know, you have someone saying, oh, they called him Hitler, and it's like the only people I can think of who've called him Hitler who have power are people like JD Vance, which again Adam Mockler does in this video. I've seen it with people like Destiny, a debate streamer who is talking to a bunch of fans of the MAGA movement, and when he asks, give me someone who said anything as near as this, they say, well, there's this guy on Twitter. Like, that, what are we doing here? And I've noticed that with other political positions. For the longest time, I kept hearing that the left-wing people are destroying the world, and this Gen Z is a bunch of babies destroying the world. Transgenders are destroying the world. There have not been young Gen Z people in politics for these past 20 fucking years. So when you talk about politics, it's mainly been controlled by older people. So that argument's stupid. I haven't seen any transgender person ever at the head of the table. Like, I want political power. You can point to me some random person on a college campus. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, yeah, I'm sure that person exists, and maybe there's someone who even has some remotely large amount of power, but it's still like, I've never seen a left-wing Gen Z transgender president. I've seen right-wing conservatives. I've seen a multitude of centrists to more right-leaning figures control our politics. When they point at someone like an AOC or now a Zoran Mamdani, I'm like, well, those are pretty small-scale people compared to the fucking president. And if that's your biggest villains, like the squad that, you know, from the 2018s on, they were pretty prominent, but they didn't really sway much, and none of them ever became president. So when I hear people talk about this, like, look who's controlling this, look who's destroying the world, it's always been more so the other side, the Republicans, the conservatives, the older people. And when I hear that there's black pilots and DEI, I'm like, well, that only came in probably recently. So if we're seeing actual tangible bad times in our world, it must have been pretty recent, because only recently we started seeing people like that fall in that identity take over politics. And even then, they still haven't had the power that the more conservative leaning history that we've seen. So I just don't get it, but I know its purpose. It's to point at the other side and try to keep the conversation from addressing the real problem in the room, that hey, this is a bad thing, we should talk about it being a bad thing. But they won't have that conversation because it's hard. It's hard for them. So when I see someone like Adam Ockler point at fascistic points that Trump has done, and then I see them point at some random person, even if the person does have some political power, it's still not enough for me to give a shit. And I wish they could see that. I wish we can fix this, but until they realize that these two things aren't comparable, we can't proceed. I think I saw this, I forgot when it was, but there was a transgender woman who lifted up her shirt on the White House. Very bad. Like, I think it's poor taste. Like, and I'm someone who's probably more left leaning than most. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's pretty weird. I didn't like that. I thought it was disrespectful. And I said, hey, that's weird. We shouldn't be just flashing people on the White House lawn. Like, there's consent involved. There's also like this sort of like decorum you have, right, with the White House, right? So I saw a right-wing cartoonist who showed this image of what the incident that happened, because it's on video, and he painted the person with like a beard and like looking grotesque. And obviously it's a caricature, but that's how I kind of see it now, where I think, oh, that's what they see. Like when I just saw like, and that person looked very much like a woman. They looked like a chick. They didn't have a beard. They had, large breasts, that like they looked like a very attractive person, which would fit the bill of what I think the conservative mind would call a woman. But they looked at that and said, well, that's hard to sell. Let's make them look gross. Or they truly see this trans person as like a grotesque monster looking 500 pounds and they got the beard and they look like a dude, but they got boobies. Like that's the world they're trying to paint, right? And I get it now. I get it. If that's truly the world they see, if they truly see Kamala tweeting a bail fund for a few BLM protesters versus pardoning every Gen 6 protester, there is obviously no comparability there, but they see it, and that's what I'm trying to dig into. How do they see it? Why do they see that? And I think the only way to move forward is that they need to address, like, she needs to explain why this is comparable. She needs to look herself in the mirror, and all these people need to say, why is that comparable to me? Like, I think that's how we fix some of this. We'll see. Obviously we need better leadership, and hopefully these people get help. But when Adam is asking for concrete definitive proof, she just says there's so much people, and it wasn't even just her. Multiple people said there's so much people calling for the death of Charlie Kirk, and it's like, well, name one. And they can't. And in their mind, they truly think that every time they open Twitter, they're seeing AOC and Biden talk bad about the Republicans to the point where the Republicans got to die. That's what they see. How do we fix that? And I think they need to address it themselves, but also like we gotta fix our leadership, bro. We gotta get someone to really quell these people's fears, and also the media itself. Like I imagine they're in this like media bubble where they're seeing like someone say that AOC wants them dead. That's my theory.